In the bustling, neon-lit marketplace of Zora 5, a planet located at the farthest edges of the galaxy, human tourists were a common sight. The market, with its shimmering stalls and strange foreign scents, was a paradise for those seeking exotic goods from every corner of the universe. And for John, a curious Earthman on his first intergalactic journey, it was an opportunity to experience something truly extraordinary. He had heard about the famous Zoran fruits, rumored to be the sweetest, most energizing produce in the galaxy. Little did he know, his quest for fruit would lead him into the heart of an alien culture, and an unexpected bond that would change his life forever. John walked into the market, his eyes wide with amazement. The air was thick with the sounds of vendors shouting in a dozen languages, each offering their unique goods. Glowing fruits, pulsing fabrics, and mechanical trinkets from every corner of the galaxy filled the vibrant stalls. John, a man of simple tastes, had come to find fruit, nothing more. But the sight of the alien women walking through the crowd, their luminous skin and graceful movements made him pause. Zora 5 was known for its diversity of species, and the people here were unlike anything he'd seen on Earth. After wandering for a while, John came across a fruit stand that caught his attention. A woman stood behind the stall, her figure wrapped in a delicate, shimmering robe. Her eyes were unlike anything he'd ever seen, deep pools of liquid gold that seemed to see straight through him. She was older than most of the women John had seen, but her elegance and the quiet sadness in her expression immediately drew him in. Looking for something sweet? The woman asked in a soft, melodic voice that seemed to echo in the air. She had a slight accent, but her English was perfect. John nodded. "Yeah, I've heard your fruits are the best in the galaxy. I'm here for something sweet, maybe energizing." The woman smiled gently, her expression distant as though she were lost in thought. "Our Zoran fruits are unlike anything you've ever tasted. They come from the farthest corners of our planet, nurtured by the suns and the soil that has sustained my people for centuries." She reached down and picked up a glowing fruit from the stall, handing it to him. "This one is the sweetest. It's called the Drenza." John took the fruit, feeling its weight in his hand. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. A soft, almost pulsing fruit with colors shifting from vibrant purple to bright blue. He took a deep breath and brought it to his lips. The moment he bit into it, his senses were overwhelmed by a burst of flavor. It was unlike anything he'd ever tasted on Earth, sweet, tangy, and energizing all at once. He closed his eyes in delight, savoring the flavor. "Wow," John said, still stunned by the taste. "This is incredible." The woman's expression softened slightly as she watched him. "I'm glad you like it." John smiled at her, appreciating her calm demeanor and the mystery surrounding her. "What's your name?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. He noticed the sadness in her eyes, something that seemed out of place in the lively marketplace. "My name is Lyra," she said softly, her voice barely audible above the clamor of the market. "I tend this stall. My husband used to run it with me, but—" Her voice trailed off, and for a moment she seemed lost in memories. "But he is no longer with me." John noticed the way her hand gripped the edge of the stall as if holding on to something invisible. He could sense that this woman carried a burden, a deep sorrow that she hid behind the serene mask of her face. Without thinking, he reached out and placed a hand on the counter, looking into her eyes. "I'm sorry," John said, his voice gentle. "If it's not too painful to ask, what happened to him?" Lyra seemed to hesitate for a moment, then nodded, her golden eyes reflecting the light of the market. "He was a warrior. He fought for our people, protecting our planet from invaders. He was strong, fierce, and brave. But one day in the line of duty, he never returned. He fought valiantly, but his ship was destroyed in battle. I was left alone with our child, and now I carry this stall alone." The weight of her words hit John deeply. He had seen tragedy before, but there was something about the way Lyra spoke, so composed, so controlled, that made the loss feel even more profound. He couldn't imagine the pain of losing someone like that, especially when it seemed like such a deep part of her had been left behind. "I'm so sorry for your loss," John said quietly. "It must be incredibly hard." Lyra offered him a sad smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Thank you for your kind words. It is difficult, but I must continue. For my child, for my people. Life goes on, and I have my stall here, offering the fruits of our land to those who need them." John nodded, feeling the weight of her strength and the quiet sadness that filled the air between them. "Well, you're doing an amazing job." These fruits are incredible, and I can tell that they carry the heart of your planet. Lyra's eyes softened at his words. Thank you. My husband would have liked to hear that. The two stood there for a moment, the market around them buzzing with energy. But in that small corner, time seemed to slow. John could feel something shifting between them, an unspoken connection. Maybe it was the shared weight of loss, or perhaps it was the understanding that, despite their differences, they both knew what it meant to keep going, one step at a time. I think I'll come back tomorrow, John said, breaking the silence. I'm not sure how long I'll be on Zora 5, but I'd like to learn more about your fruits. And maybe about your planet, too. Lyra gave him a nod, her golden eyes locking with his. You are welcome here, John. The Zoran people welcome all those who respect our ways. And if you return, perhaps we can share more than just fruit. John smiled, a bit surprised by the invitation but grateful for the connection. He had come to the market looking for something simple, fruit. But in that moment he found something far more valuable. He had found an unexpected bond, one that had the potential to grow as deep and rich as the fruits Lyra sold. Tomorrow, then, John said, as he took one last look at the stall. Lyra's eyes followed him, a quiet understanding passing between them. As John walked away, he couldn't shake the feeling that his time on Zora 5 was going to be far more than just an ordinary journey. It was a chance to discover something deeper, something unexpected, and perhaps it was a chance to help Lyra heal, just as much as he was beginning to heal himself from his own wounds. The marketplace continued to bustle around him, but for the first time that day, John felt like he was in the right place at the right time. Little did he know the next day would bring more than just fruit. It would bring a new chapter in both their lives. The next day, as the twin suns of Zora 5 dipped low in the sky, casting a warm golden glow over the alien marketplace, John returned. He had spent the night thinking about his brief encounter with Lyra, the widowed alien woman who tended her stall with quiet grace. There was something about her story, something in her eyes that stayed with him. It had sparked a curiosity within him, a curiosity about her people, and perhaps most importantly, about the world she had to navigate alone. John had visited countless alien worlds, but there was something different about Zora 5. It wasn't just the advanced technology or the strange creatures that roamed the streets. It was the quiet strength in its people, the way they carried their burdens with dignity. Lyra had shared a piece of her soul with him, and he couldn't ignore it. As he approached her stall again, John could feel a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. He wasn't sure why he was coming back. Was it just to buy more fruit? Or was it something more, something he couldn't quite put his finger on? When he arrived at the stall, he found it just as vibrant and alive as the day before. The same glowing fruits were stacked neatly in baskets, their colors shifting with the light. Lyra was there, standing behind the stall, her hands busy arranging the fruit in an elegant display. But today her face was different. The sadness from the day before was still there, but now there was something else in her eyes, a flicker of hope. Perhaps good evening, John greeted, offering a friendly smile as he approached the stall. Lyra looked up at him, and for a moment her golden eyes met his. There was a brief pause, and then she gave him a soft smile. Good evening, John. I wasn't sure if you would return. John shrugged slightly, unsure of how to explain his reasons. I wanted to see more of what you sell. The fruits were amazing, but I also wanted to come back and talk, if you don't mind. Lyra's expression softened, and she nodded. Of course. It's rare for visitors to come back more than once. What is it you would like to talk about? John hesitated for a moment, then decided to be honest. I guess I'm curious. I've been to a lot of planets, met a lot of people, but there's something different about this place. About you. I don't know why, but I feel like there's more to your story. More to Zora 5. Lyra studied him for a moment, her gaze steady but kind. Zora 5 is a peaceful world, but not without its challenges. My people have faced loss, war, and hardship, but we continue. We survive and we adapt, just as I am learning to survive without my husband. Her voice softened as she spoke, the vulnerability in her words clear despite her controlled tone. John took a step closer, instinctively sensing the weight of her grief. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring up painful memories, but I can tell you're strong. Stronger than most people I know. Lyra's eyes flickered with something like surprise, then a brief laugh escaped her lips. Strength is something we Zorans are taught from a young age. We are born of a harsh land, one that demands resilience. But even the strongest among us are not immune to grief. Her voice wavered for a moment, and John noticed her hands trembling slightly as she reached for another fruit. John felt a pull in his chest, a desire to help, but unsure of how to bridge the gap between them. "I've had my own share of loss," he said quietly, his voice almost a whisper. "I lost my parents when I was young. I know what it feels like to be left behind." Lyra's eyes softened as she looked at him. "Then you understand, John, the pain never fully goes away. It changes you." They stood in silence for a moment, both lost in their own thoughts. The market around them continued to hum with activity, but it felt as though they were in their own world, connected by shared pain, yet also by a quiet understanding. Finally, Lyra spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes I wonder if my husband would have wanted me to carry on like this, to sell fruits in the market alone with only memories for company. But I'd do it. For my child. For my people." John nodded slowly, his mind racing. He could see the strength behind her words, the quiet dignity with which she carried her pain. "You're doing more than just selling fruit, Lyra. You're giving people something real, something that carries the heart of your world. You're honoring your husband's memory, even if it feels like it's not enough." Lyra's gaze softened, her eyes searching his face as if seeing him for the first time. You understand more than I thought." "I've been through a lot," John said, his voice steady now. "But I believe in something greater, in connection, in finding something worth fighting for. Maybe that's why I keep coming back." Lyra paused, her golden eyes narrowing as she regarded him with newfound interest. "And what is it that you think you're fighting for, John?" He took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. "I don't know yet. But maybe it's to learn from you, from your world. Maybe it's to help heal some of the wounds I've carried for too long." For the first time, Lyra smiled fully. The sadness that had once clouded her features seemed to lift, just for a moment, like a cloud parting to reveal the sun. "You are kind, John. You have a heart that sees more than the surface. Perhaps there is much you can teach me as well." John smiled back, feeling a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the fruit he had eaten the day before. "Maybe we can teach each other." As the sun sank below the horizon, casting a soft purple hue over the market, Lyra invited John to sit with her at the small table behind her stall. They spent the next few hours talking about the history of Zora 5, about their lives, their losses, and the small things that brought them joy. It wasn't an ordinary conversation. It was deeper, more profound. And in that moment, John realized that he hadn't just come to Zora 5 for the fruit. He had come for this connection with a woman who had known more pain than he could imagine, but who still carried on with grace and dignity. As the night drew to a close, John knew that his time on Zora 5 would not just be a brief adventure. It would be a turning point, a moment where he had stepped into a new chapter of his life, one that was far more meaningful than he had ever anticipated. "I'll come back tomorrow," John said, standing up to leave. "We have much more to talk about." Lyra nodded, her eyes glowing softly in the dim light. "I look forward to it, John." And as he walked away from her stall, John felt a sense of peace that he hadn't felt in years. He had come to Zora 5 seeking fruit, but what he had found was so much more. He had found a bond with a woman who had survived great loss, and in doing so, he had discovered that even in the farthest reaches of the galaxy, connection could still be the most powerful force of all.